Welcome to Black Man Lab live lab results. We are live on Wednesday, February 16th. The year is flying by already. Welcome, and we are looking forward to having a great conversation tonight. We are talking about tonight love and finding the right partner in life. That's what we talked about this past Monday at the Black Man Lab, and we had a very, very lively discussion. One that was one for the books. So good that we're actually going to be bringing it back next Monday for a part two, so we can continue that conversation because we think it's that important. Before we get started, just a little history about the Black Man Lab. The Black Man Lab was started roughly 5 years ago by forefathers that wanted to provide some other voices for their sons. Because quite often, us as fathers, what happens is our sons tune us out. They might listen to an uncle, they might listen to a godfather, a close friend, but they won't listen to us. So, in the essence of Black Man Lab was let's give these guys somebody else to listen to that we trust. And that extended itself to their friends as well as their friends' friends. So it grew and it grew, eventually to the point of us having over 250 black men meeting every Monday at the Andrew and Walter Young YMCA to talk about different subject matter, whether it was something professionally related or something around building self-development. So this past week was one of those self-development ones, and it was a great conversation. Tonight we will have one of our panelists on with us that was there Monday, so we can get some in-depth conversation with him. But before we get to him, one of the things we make sure that we do, no matter what the situation, no matter what kind of a gathering we are having, we always make sure that we bring our ancestors into the space. And the reason we do that is we know that we couldn't do any of the work that we are doing today without the sacrifices that those that came before us gave. So what we do here in Black Man Lab on lab results is really simple. We just call one name. We call one name that may be sitting with you on that particular day, and I know who's sitting on my heart today, and I'm going to ask our guest to call a name along with me, and then we're going to just say Ashe at the end of it. So if you could, just join me and call a name on three. One, two, three. Sylvester Williams.
James.
Ashe.
Ashe.
So without further ado, I have my brother. We call him the Love Doctor at the Black Man Lab, who spends a lot of his time with us, sharing with us about um, energy, the feeling of good energy and what that can do for you, um, and then talking about being in a space of love. So, my brother Josh, can you come on and introduce yourself?
Good morning. Good
Can't hear you,
morning.
Josh.
Can you hear me? You can't hear me? Still can't hear me? What did I just hear? Now can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now, I think. Try again. No, you're still muted. Try it now.
Now, what
There,
about now?
there you go. I
Okay,
got you.
good. Fantastic. Well, sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Joshua Peltier. I'm an energy therapist. I'm just so honored to be a part of the Black Man Lab. I think you all are doing a fantastical job of bringing brothers together to allow them to share their feelings, their emotion, their thoughts in a safe space where they are not confronted by any kind of challenges, just to be open with trying to be better.
Absolutely, and we love having you in the space, brother. Every time we get ready to start up, you getting the energy in the room up is awesome, and no pun intended, right? Because that's
It's all
that's
energy.
our thing. That's our thing, folks. One of the things that Josh does is he makes sure that everybody in that room knows that they are awesome,
That's
and so
it.
that's very important in how we get started, and it's a great energy that we have. So Josh, let's talk about Monday. What did you think? What did you think about our conversation on Monday?
Monday was one of the most impactful Black Men Lives I've been a part of. It was a situation where all of the brothers who were present were fully invested in the situation because it was on a topic that a lot of Black men don't really address, and that is love. How does one love themselves? How does one love their partner? How does one love to a point where they understand how to deal with situations. And it was amazing how the conversation shifted. But
Mm,
I don't think I've seen that many hands being raised up at the same time with so many people wanted to talk.
yeah,
So I thought it was very, very impactful, and it was necessary at the same time.
absolutely. Enough so that we're, like we said before, that we're going to bring it back next week. We've never done that. We've never had a topic that we brought back the following week. But this one was so, I think, not just impactful, but important.
Yes.
And important for us as black men to be able to get those, all of those feelings and thoughts out there so that, once we got them out there, we can, really sort through them. Let's talk a little bit about you. Where you born?
I am originally from Kansas City, Missouri, 64131. If you're trying to visit, just call first.
Okay, and now how long were you there?
I grew up my whole life there. Well, no, that's not true. I left Kansas City and went to Iowa City in the 10th grade. Then after Iowa City, I went to a small college called Upper Iowa for 2 years. And then I went to Fisk University, where I later graduated. And then I went to Howard University for film. So
HU.
I'm all about the black folks. Yeah.
My
And
man. Well, it's rare that we had two HU folks on here, so
really,
it's
everywhere I
great.
go, there's somebody from Howard. Every
Yeah,
single place I go in Atlanta, there's somebody from Howard. So that's very
yeah,
common to me now.
yeah, yeah. So tell us about your family.
My mother is a PhD. She's helped four people get their PhDs. She was a teacher in China, where she was Teacher of the Year twice in China.
Oh
She
wow.
also helped two other people get Teachers of the Year in China. My father only graduated the 8th grade, but he has his own contracting business that he's had for over 40 years.
Oh wow.
So I have geniuses on both sides of my family. I have been in all kinds of situations to help me communicate with all different types of people, which has really assisted my growth and development in all that I does.
Mm,
And now that I do energy therapy, understanding I have to communicate to the people exactly what their challenges are and how I may be able to assist them. And what I do with energy therapy is I help people release the negative energy, which is caused by emotional trauma, so that they can feel better. All pain is just negative energy that wants to escape. And all I does is create a pathway in the body by opening up the meridians and allow that stuff to leave so you can feel better.
let's talk about that a little bit. How did you get to that space? Now, you told me about your education, and then you said you went to Howard for film, right?
Yes.
And then what? So you got through with Howard, and it seemed like film would have been your move, but what happened?
That, I thought I was supposed to be some big time director. That not how it turned out. Uh, I had a girlfriend at the time who I put my hand over her face. It's an interesting story. And she started shaking. And I said, "What's going on with you?" And she was like, "Don't do that again, but do it again." So, okay. So I put my hand over her face and she said, "My whole body is tingling." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Something is coming out of your hand. I don't know what it is." So I later started doing research. Then I started studying, I started taking courses, and then I got with a black yogi who told me how to do transcendental meditation. And he said, "This is going to enhance all the work that you do." So basically, all I am is just a conduit. I'm just letting the energy flow through me from the universe to attach to the person to let that stuff come out. I had to realize that my path was not my own. So I had to come to the conclusion that my ego had to step to the side so I could help people be better.
Hmm. And so
Yeah, it's
then
kind of
when,
interesting.
yeah, it's obviously very interesting. When, at what point did you say, this is what I'm doing, what, you know, going forward?
Doing video production and working in film, it's a lot of work, and people do not know how much work and goes into it. It's a lot of energy that is behind the scenes that you have to do. I still do video production, especially for myself, and if the price is right, I'll definitely do it. But there is a quick, I don't know, way to see results with people that I have not been able to manufacture in any sort of way when it comes to energy therapy. When I'm working with people, there is instant results.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in 2 minutes or less. I was just with a client today, and they cannot believe how good they felt in a matter of minutes from two things that I did for them. And there's a great satisfaction knowing that I've helped somebody be better in that little bit of time. So
Mm.
it's just, I just really appreciate it, and I'm helping a lot of folks.
That's beautiful, man. That is beautiful. Because I've seen you do some stuff at the lab. I've seen you,
Mhm.
at the end, have some quick little sessions, and people are always like, "That's weird. I feel better."
It's
That's great stuff, man.
a beautiful thing.
Um, so so let's talk about what do you think from Monday? What do you think was the one of the pivotal things that you heard?
Well, you know what? I don't know if it was as much as if what I've heard, but I was really noticing the look on people's faces when they were coming to some conclusions that they didn't think of before.
Mm,
When I was seeing the young men like, hmm. When Marley was talking, they were like, I never thought about that. That's interesting. Because a
mm,
lot of times we go into situations thinking we know what's the best only because that's the only thing that we know.
mm.
But when you hear another brother who has been established, who's doing stuff in the community, and you hear him saying some stuff that you know what? I need to consider what he's saying. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense because what's beautiful about how Black Man works, nobody's really talking at you. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're always having a conversation. So the people who are in the audience are forced to listen because they feel a part of the process.
Right.
And I was noticing the faces and all of the hmm. So now, hopefully, what will happen the next time, they will have even more questions because they're looking at what love is and how to treat the other person that you are in love with differently.
Yeah, it's interesting. Typically as Molly and I moderate, um, he has a lot to offer, right? And as he's doing what he's doing, I'm doing the same thing that you were talking about, where I'm observing. I always
Mm-hmm.
observe the audience to make sure that we're not missing anything. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, and then also sometimes you can see when there's confusion on
Yes.
somebody's face. Because
Yes.
sometimes inadvertently we may talk over somebody just because it's second something might be second nature to you, but
Yeah.
somebody else doesn't necessarily know what that means. So I'm real cognizant about watching people and saying, okay, well, you might catch me sometimes where I'll tell somebody on the panel,
Mm-hmm.
describe that or explain that. And
Exactly.
I'm only doing that because I watch the audience. So
Very good.
um, I think that, to your point, this past Monday, I got that same thing. I got that same thing where it was one of the few times I've seen the men sitting on the edge of their seats,
Yes.
moving forward and just the body language of it. So um, I was pleased with that, which obviously led us to having this thing happen again next week, because I don't want to lose that momentum, as well as I think that we have more to talk about on the subject.
Most
Speaking
definitely.
of which, let's chop those up a little bit. The
Okay.
love piece and then the partner piece. Um, let's talk about what did you see, or what do you think was communicated best as we were talking about love in its
Mm-hmm.
entirety.
The one thing that I think that was really felt, even if it did not actually make sense to some of the young men and some of the older gentlemen, I think it was felt that you must walk into the love situation understanding it's not always the other person's fault.
Mm,
You could be a percentage of the cause as to what is causing the other person to act a certain way. So you can't put the total blame, oh, she's like this because of this. Well, she might be acting like that because of something that you did. And I think as grown-ups, as adults, we must take ownership of our actions. I know for a fact when I was married and a lot of the challenges I had with my wife, I may have caused a few of those. To be honest with you, I may have done some things that may have provoked her to act and react the way that she did. Now, she did have quite a few challenges. Let's just be honest. But I could have prohibited or stopped some of those things from happening if I would have approached them differently. And I think as grown up as men, when you start to take ownership of some of the challenges that you've created, I think it makes it easier for you to step forward and do different or better the next time you get in a relationship. Because I learned a lot. And plus, I wanted to say this last night when I have enough time. It's mandatory that if you are in a situation that you forgive the other person and forgive yourself.
Yeah.
If you are always blaming them and blaming yourself, you're never going to move forward. Accept what you did is wrong. Say you made some mistakes and just don't do them again. And then say,
Right.
I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to whoever else. Because if you don't, you are not going to heal.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that that message permeated the conversation on Monday. You know, we had a number of people on the panel and some in the audience say that to some degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to. I think that maybe it comes with age, but I think for me, what helped me get through those kind of spaces was to eventually get to a point where I say, you know what, the only thing that I can control truly in life is me,
That's it.
right? So if I'm controlling myself in the right ways, if I'm being very self analytical about every interaction that I have, it's gonna be pretty hard for me not to find that space of love, and when I say love, I'm just meaning in general love, being
Mm-hmm.
able to, not necessarily about a relationship, but just being in the space of love. It's going to be hard to not be in that space um, when you're being accountable for yourself. You know what
That's
I
right.
mean? So I think that was great that we had that kind of. I think for some people it was hard. It was really hard to get there because they've had a lot of different kinds of trauma in their
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's understandable. It's a process. It's a process. So I hope that what we're doing is kind of opening the door for that. So
Yeah,
um,
because Black
go
Man
ahead.
Lab, I'm gonna say this and I'll let you talk, is a very healthy environment.
Mm,
And always I tell people with all my clients, there's only two things I work with: healthy and unhealthy. If the situation is unhealthy and you know it is, then what are you going to do about it? If you keep on going back to an unhealthy situation, you're putting yourself in that situation. But if you know it's healthy, then you want to figure out to continue to be in that situation. We don't do good or bad. We don't do right or wrong. Healthy and
healthy and
unhealthy.
unhealthy. Yeah.
That's it. If
Yeah.
your heart and chest is hurting when your loved one comes to the room, you need to think about the situation. If they call you, like when my ex would text me, my stomach would hurt immediately. So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what does she want? And then all of a sudden, I would feel bad and I would get sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this is not healthy, Josh. We got to figure
Mm-hmm.
something out.
Right. Right. And sometimes, again, part of that self assessment. Sometimes you are the cause of it not being healthy.
So very true.
you
So
know.
very true. If you
So
want to be honest, that's the
yeah,
truth.
you're causing an unhealthy reaction from the person that's coming back to you to making you feel worse.
That's right.
Yeah, it can be a little complicated, but it can also be really simple if you just look at it from that perspective. So let's talk a little bit about the relationship piece. We weren't able to delve that deep into it,
Mm-hmm.
but what did you garner from that as you heard some of the young folks particularly talking about their relationships with their significant others or whatever.
Yeah, relationships are always interesting because everybody has a perspective on how it should be and how it should go. And you can't judge a person about their relationship. You can't say their relationship is wrong or bad, but their perspective on how they address it makes it very interesting on how they deal with their own relationships. If you grow up in a household and you see your mother and father fighting all the time, you may think that's how a relationship's supposed to go.
Hmm.
If you grow up in a household, you never see your mother or you never see your father, you're a latchkey kid, you are figuring this relationship thing out. If you grow up in a relationship where the mother and father are always talking bad about each other, but they stay together, what are you supposed to do? So
Hmm.
it's very interesting that people make up their own ideas on what a relationship is. And the bottom line, the crux of it all, the relationship deals with how much do you care about the other person? Do you care about the other person? And if you do care, do you communicate that you care? And do you communicate with care? Those are the two things. If you can communicate that you care, communicate with care, the relationship will work itself out. But so many people think, well, she's my wife, so she's supposed to do this. He's my husband, he's supposed to do this. All that stuff is based off of what you saw or what you think is supposed to go. But how do you care about the other person? And another thing, and I said this last night, if you are in a relationship, do you want to be in it?
Hmm.
Period. Do you want to be in the relationship? Because it's going to require some sacrifice and compromise. Working with all the couples that I work with, the first question I ask, do y'all want to be together? One person like, of course, yeah. The other person's like, well, all right. And I say, do you want to be with the person forever? And I say, ooh, y'all need to have a conversation.
Hmm.
Because if you don't want to be in it, you're going to do things to find a way out of it subconsciously. But if you want to be in it, you will find ways to make sure that you show that you care so that you can be in it.
Yeah, I think to your point, that sacrifice piece,
Big time.
and I think that when you are in a relationship and you do the sacrifice piece and it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing,
Yeah.
that's the space you want to be in.
It only doesn't feel like a sacrifice if you really, really care about the person.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have that feel for that person, it comes naturally. You don't have that. Oh God, I gotta go here with her or him.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, babe, let's go. Let's do it. That,
You,
and you don't think twice about it. Um, and that I felt that when we were at the lab, and uh, there were a lot of conversations that were, you could hear a lot of contention in some of the young folks'
oh, yeah.
voice. And I'm sure you were doing the same as we're sitting on the panel. It was just like, okay, well, you probably should go in a different direction. You shouldn't feel that
Yeah,
way.
because they want to start getting mad and start blasting people
Yeah,
because they didn't want to be in a relationship when they thought about it. You
right,
see, when
right,
somebody shows you who they are, now you're trying to either fix them like I thought I had to do. And then when they don't want to listen, now you mad. And everything they ask you gonna be like, can you turn off the lights? Why don't you turn off the lights? Every little thing is gonna make you mad because you're frustrated because you don't care about them as much as you thought you did.
right, right. And that might be because you realize that they don't care about you as much as you thought that they did.
There it is. It's just that easy.
That's great, man. But I think that we had a lot of talk around um, folks, men having their children and not being in the relationship with the mother of their children and the
Uh-huh.
challenges that came with that. What were your thoughts on the kind of the, I don't want to say the fix, but the resolution that a lot of people came up with as it
Now,
related to that?
I don't know if we came to a clear conclusion on that. It got very emotional, which it always does. If anybody has ever dated, you are going to run to in the situation where you're going to date somebody who you feel is trying to take advantage of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough that it has to be like that, but you keep that negative imagery tight. And that's something that everybody can relate to, but it's not fair for the next relationship. And if you can listen to how the men were talking about it, they are still hurting from what happened in that one bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous because it's tough for you to move on. They always talk about how women can't move on because they're one bad situation. All men are bad, this, that, and the other. But men do the same thing. Men do
Oh
the
yeah.
same thing. And it's something that we all can relate to. We've all been in a situation where the woman feels like she really didn't care. She was just trying to take advantage of us. And then she'll do everything she can to make us mad. I know I felt that way, but I
Mm-hmm.
moved on, thank God. But so
Right.
I don't know if we really got to a conclusion because it just gets so deep and this
Mm-hmm.
comes as a subconscious bond between everybody because everybody can relate to that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of conversation around, loving that person that the mother of your children who you're no longer with and you may have a very contentious relationship with.
Uh-huh.
And there was a lot of conversation around that you have to find a way to still love that person. Um, and in some use the terminology of forgive them. You know, what are your thoughts on it? Because I thought that was interesting.
Well,
In that it was so that like that was the fix for some people.
okay, so okay.
Because let me tell you, Josh, let me tell you this. Because when we were sitting on the panel, that face you just made, I saw you.
Because I was sitting and I was hearing people talking. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm a firm believer that you could forgive people. You don't have to do anything you want to do. But forgiveness, self-love, and gratitude are the three major things that'll change and heal yourself, your body, your mind, physical, all that good stuff. Just because you forgive somebody does not mean you have to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you forgive somebody does not mean you still have to do for them. Just because you forgive somebody does not mean you owe them anything. Okay. I forgive my ex-wife, but she has a cease and desist. Okay. I have a cease and desist against her. There's no reason for her ever to text me, call me, to say, hi, how you doing? Communicate with me ever again. I don't need no drama. Okay. What did Mary say during the Super Bowl? No more drama. You can forgive people. And if you still want to love them, that's your choice. But
Mm-hmm.
just keep in mind, if you're still loving that person, that space is being taken up in your heart, and it could be holding another space for somebody else to move in.
And let me jump in there. That was my concern, right? Was that as we kept talking about holding love for this person,
Mm-hmm.
our conversation is around how do you build good relationships, right? How do you have a
Exactly.
a good relationship? In my opinion, and I'm obviously not a professional, but in my opinion, if you're holding space of love for X and you have somebody else that you want to move on to,
Right.
are you giving them every bit of that? You know what I mean?
You're not. You're
And,
not. It's
and that
difficult.
that
You
would be a
can't.
concern.
When people say, I love my baby's daddy, I love the first man I was with, I love you. How can you do all of that? How many compartments in your heart do you have to do that?
Sure.
That's, that's difficult to do. So I'm a firm believer. I care for my ex-wife. I wish her the best. I
Hmm.
don't know if I still love her.
Yeah.
And I don't think that she needs my love to survive. We have no children together, but she can do whatever she want to do.
Hmm. I'd say, I think in a general sense, no different than I try to have love for everybody that is in my life. I can give you that general sense of having that kind of love,
Mm-hmm.
but the love that is very intentional. I don't think, same as you have an ex-wife, no, no harm, no foul. I just
Hmm.
let her. She's the mother of my children, and there'll be something there for her for that. But that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
but to
it.
hold love for her that I should be giving to somebody else,
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily
Yeah.
healthy for the next relationship. You know.
Very good. Very good. Now, whatever you want to do is you, but that's just me. I don't tell them how to live their life. But if that's what you feel you want to do it. I ain't doing that though. When I
Yeah,
cut her off, I cut her off.
yeah. I don't know that that's healthy. So, um, but so what do you think going forward? What do you think is some of the things? Because next week, and you'll be there next week, right?
Yes.
Okay. So next week, as we circle back to this conversation, um, what do you think would be a good way to have our engagement around it? Because quite honestly, we could do this, multiple sessions,
Mm-hmm.
but I think after next week we'll give it a rest.
I think that there has to a question should be posed. And it should be posed from the point or the reference of, do you really want to be in a relationship?
Hmm.
A lot of people tell you that they want to be in a relationship, but do they really understand the time, the energy, and the effort it takes? Because when you start to say, I want you to be my woman, girlfriend, slash wife, whatever, you have to alter everything you do. You
Hmm.
cannot do stuff the same way, because now you have to consider the other person. So my question always is this what you really want? And I will
Hmm.
pose, if this what you really want, because you got to figure out the financials of it. It's the simplest thing is, you go to the store, you come back, and then you're like, wait a minute. And she's like, what did you get me from the store? And like, oh, I didn't know you wanted them. You didn't call me to even ask me. Uh-oh. I think my computer's shutting down.
I'll give you a minute, man. We lost Josh there, but we'll be back in here shortly. In the meantime, we have had some great conversations, as you can tell, with this subject matter of relationships and love. And typically, as black men, we don't delve deep into it, right? We don't delve deep into these conversations. But the Black Man Lab has allowed us this space, as again, safe and sacred space, for us to just open up and be honest in our conversations. Um, and especially for our young folks that in today's environment are experiencing um, all kinds of stuff coming at them at all times, right? So we got social media, we have what they're seeing on TV and in the film and wherever, and it's not the reality that most of us have lived. So we want to be able to give them the space to ask questions and really delve deep into what's going to help them to develop themselves, but then also a relationship. What's going to help to develop these relationships as it relates to having a partner in life. Some of us, I'll speak for myself, some of us, it takes us a long time to get there. Some people are lucky early, I shouldn't say lucky, but figure it out early on and have, like my parents, 60 plus years of marriage. And um, they were able to work through all the kinks throughout all the years. Josh, you're back. You're on mute, brother.
Now, okay,
There you
good.
go.
My bad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no problem.
yeah. My computer died on me. Yeah.
That's
Where was
okay.
I
I forgot because I was vamping as you were going.
at? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the question that I think that we should ask ourselves is: Do you really want to be in a relationship? Do you really want to be in a relationship? Because it takes time, energy, and effort. And a lot of these men, they say, yeah, I'm ready, I'm ready. But you say you're ready until you get into it and you don't have the freedom that you used to have. You can't just do whatever you want when you're in a relationship. I learned the hard way. Being dating and being married is two totally different things, and it changes in one day.
Mm.
It's not like you have a month to deal with in the process. You're single one day, you get married, the next day you marry.
Right.
So you have to flip your time, your everything changes. I deal with a lot of people. My hours can go from 5 hours to a client to 7 hour clients. I have to be in a situation where a person I'm with can understand that. And if not, I'd say, listen, I got to wrap this session up because I got to go be with my woman. She'd be like, Josh, you really in a 7 hour session? Yes, I'm in a 7 hour session.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then you really have to have a conversation about the other with the person on what your life is going to do. But everything alters as soon as you get in a relationship. And you have to ask yourself, do you really want to be in one
Yeah.
before you do it?
And I think that again, that's that self awareness, right? Being able to ask yourself some honest questions. I think us as when we're young, it's tough to do that because when you're young, it's all about you. So that leads
Yes.
to some natural selfishness, and even some ego in there too,
Yes.
right?
Bunch of ego.
Right.
Yes.
So that having that lack of awareness going into a relationship, what you think is important really might not be that important, right?
There it is.
So you have to have that willingness to check yourself first. But again, I think that unless you are extreme, especially us as men,
Mm-hmm.
unless you are extremely mature, in those early 20s or late 20s into your early 30s even, because I know myself when I was married at 29,
Ooh.
what I thought, I was like, my parents have been married, I'm gonna do that, you know what I mean? And I didn't do any of the work. I didn't do any of the merit. I just thought that, I'm making good money, got a nice house, we had these kids, and I'll be married the rest of my life. And so I wound up not paying attention to a lot of different things, and then you know your ego gets in the way too. You're like, I don't know why you tripping. I'm going to work, and it's not about that. Again, you the 50-plus-year-old Marty and the 29-year-old Marty, two different guys, and I think that that's all of us, right? So
Yep.
I'd be interested, and remind me on Monday because you know
Mm-hmm.
me, I'll forget. But remind me Monday to ask this question: what do the young folks think good looks like in a relationship?
Ooh.
I think that that's
Mm.
important, you know,
That's heavy.
because that'll tell you a lot, right? Because if their perspective of what good looks like
Mm.
is skewed, then that's going to tell you right off the bat, well, son, you probably don't have a good chance here,
But once again, they may be going from their own perspective
Right,
from a child
right,
on what that is.
yeah, yeah.
You
So
know,
we,
when they say, I hear men say all the time, my mother did everything. She did everything. My father didn't do nothing. My mama did everything. So you expect a woman to do everything exactly, just like my mother. Well, you need to have a certain conversation
yeah,
because
yeah.
that might not float.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what other thoughts did you have about it? I had so many that after Molly and I, we always debrief afterwards, and
Uh-huh.
we didn't do our full debrief, but
Uh-huh.
we had some thoughts. What about you? What did you think?
I was
Anything else jumped out
surprised.
at you?
I
Huh?
was surprised. I was surprised that the young man really wanted to be with these women forever.
Mm.
They really said, yes, I want to marry them and be with them forever.
Mm.
That's powerful. When I was their age, I'm not that old, but I didn't really see me being in the situation forever.
Mm.
Even when I was married, I said this thing is gonna run its course. And when I'm done, I'm just gonna move on to the next. You
Mm.
know, I didn't look at myself as being with one person. Now, I never had the ability to be a player. Okay. I am hilarious. My brain is massive. I can't remember names. So I'm not good at having multiple women. So if I
Sure.
have me a girlfriend or a wife, that's who I'm dealing with. But as soon as I'm done with you, 2 days later, I'm gonna find somebody else.
Sure.
But I was surprised that they really wanted to be in serious long-term relationships. I said, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. That was really shocking to me. And being a black man in Atlanta, you will always, I repeat, always have options.
Mm.
Being a man, period, no matter where you live in the world, you will always have options. I
Right.
had a roommate I went to school with. His father was 72 years old. He got married again to a girl who was 32.
Mm.
And he's from Africa. He had 34 brothers and sisters. They
Wow.
had to talk him out of the marrying the woman. The girl was ready. So I'll do it. I'm 32 years old. Okay. He wanted some more children because he already had enough, and he already had 35, but he wanted 36.
Wow.
And he wanted more. But I can understand that though. I can understand his need or whatever he feel like he wanted more. I get it. But I was fascinated by the men in the audience who said they wanted one woman. I said that was impressive. That
Yeah.
really stuck out to me.
I think that there is an undertone for us as men. Now I think even in those of us that have had some days, right, when we were single and doing things, right. I don't
I
want,
mean, you went to Howard, right?
yeah, yeah,
No more conversation.
yeah, yeah. So even those of us that were, like I said, doing a lot, there's always an undertone, and I bet you probably have even said this to yourself too.
Uh-huh.
You know, somebody that you spent time with in your mind, or whether you said it to one of your boys, she could be wife. She could be wife material. Because we ultimately, I think that that's where you want to get to. So maybe those young guys, even though they may not be constructed for it right now,
Mm-hmm.
that's the goal, right? That's the goal to have. And I don't know. Maybe it's just us. I think that that's just ingrained in us as men. Um, in our DNA that's there, even if you're not equipped for it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because I've known and I've seen many a dude who I could say I don't know that he should be doing that yet, but they do, right? And then wind up in tough scenarios. Hell, it could have been said about me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that those young folks, because the space is so safe,
Yeah.
felt comfortable
Very,
saying
very
it.
good.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep. Yep.
I
That's a
don't know
product of you and
that
Molly. Yep.
I don't know that that's something that would normally come out of their mouth. You know,
True. Very true.
because the one fella that was sitting right up front, and I'm not going to name any names, but we were talking about his issues with his
Mm-hmm.
his baby's mom, and you wasn't it you that posed the question to him? Would you want to be with her or something? Would you want to marry
Yeah,
her?
I asked him, I said, how did you he asked, when do you think it's time to leave?
Mm.
And I asked him, how did you feel at first? He said he was in love, it was beautiful, whatever. And I asked him, how did you feel afterwards? He said his chest started hurting. I said that you should think about it. When you start
Mm.
to feel unhealthy, your body will tell you you need to rethink the situation.
Mm.
But he was really committed to that person.
Yeah,
You can see
he
it in his
said he
face too.
yeah he said he wanted to marry her. And for us who have a little bit of a little bit of pepper in the beer, we're like, no, it's probably not a good look for you, because you're not feeling good right now.
Come on.
At this, you haven't even
Yeah.
had any long relationships because you're so you haven't had any long relationship
Mm-hmm.
trauma, if you will. Anything that
Yeah.
you actually go through, and
Yeah.
you already feeling that way. Not a good sign.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough because it's not gonna be a situation that's gonna change.
Right.
It's just going to end up getting worse because you're not gonna really find out why or whatever she's doing that's making you feel that way. And then if you bring it to them, sometimes they'll be like, "Well, that's not me. That's you. I'm just being myself." I was like, "Oh my god!" So
Yeah.
then it's like a back and forth, and now you feel bad for even bringing it up.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I've been there.
I think we all have, brother. I think we all have. You know, but overall, I think the conversation was great. I think that you know, folks like yourself and other folks that we had on the panel, I felt bad that we didn't tap into our young brother who was on the panel a little bit
Mhm.
more.
He got up and left.
Yeah,
He walked. He walked off. I don't know if he stayed sitting down there the whole time.
I
Now
think. Yeah.
he okay. He shared some stuff with me before. Matter of fact, a few people in there have shared the stuff with me privately.
Uh,
And it's very interesting how they are approaching this relationship.
mm-hmm.
That's all I'm gonna say. And I didn't think that he was going to be as open as he was with me, with everybody else. But if he would have talked about his stuff, what he's going through, it would have been a whole conversation in by itself.
Mm,
Because these new brothers, they have their own concepts on what relationships look like
mm,
and what it means to be committed and what it means to be in a situation or in a relationship. I would love if you ever get a chance to talk to him, if he could tell how he approaches it, because I think a lot of people may approach it the same way. That's when he got up there. I was excited. I was like, is he gonna tell what he told me? And I was like, please do. Because it'll be really, really deep. Because a lot of people I think the same way he does. He shared
and
some
it,
really interesting stuff with me.
yeah, I venture to say it would have happened had our
Uh,
conversation not gone in the direction that it did. And if he doesn't see this, then I'm gonna bring it up on Monday and might have him
Bring
back
it
on the
up.
panel. Might
Bring
have
it
him
up and
back on
see
the
if
panel.
ask him privately if he'll talk about it.
Okay.
Because it's interesting. And people tell me everything because I try as hard as I can not to judge folks. But when he shared it with me, I was like, okay, because I got clients that think the same way he does, but at such a young age. I
Mm,
mean, yeah, because he's what, 2 or 3 years out of Morehouse? Yeah,
yeah.
what, 24, 25? So
24.
he seemed to got this thing made up in his my house gonna go.
That goes back to that self awareness and ego, right? It might be getting in the way of stuff, man. Yeah. So remind me on that one too on
I'm gonna
Monday.
remind you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
remind you.
And I'll
Please.
pull.
He might not show up though. He might not show up
No,
to
he'll be
talk about
there. He'll be there. He's a regular. So,
it. Yeah. Okay.
um, yeah, we're I'm excited to bring the conversation back around, and this time a little bit more control over it, so
Uh-huh.
that we don't get off the rails, kind of like we did. Although we needed to get off, I guess clearly we
Yeah.
needed to.
I
So,
think it was I think it was necessary. I think that you and Molly should be very proud of the environment you all created because those men in that room felt it was okay to say whatever came to their mind.
mhm.
And that is a beautiful thing. And you probably know, and I know this for a fact, having dealing with people on this level, it's a refreshing feeling just to be able to say stuff without having any pushback.
Yeah,
The reason my sessions be lasting so long, men and women, is because they get to say stuff that they have not been able to tell people for years.
mm,
And when the stuff comes out at the Black Man Lab, it stays right there,
Yeah.
and you don't treat anybody even any differently.
No.
So it's a beautiful thing. So you all should be very proud of that because you all created that energy in that environment.
Yeah, that's the it's funny because when as I'm going out trying to get um, funding for us and all that other kind of stuff, and I always have to explain, or if I'm just trying to get somebody to come to the Black Man
Mm-hmm.
Lab,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm trying to explain it, I can say what the Black Man Lab is, like I did at the beginning of this, how we came to be, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it still doesn't do justice for the energy of that room. You know what I mean? And it's so hard for me to say. Sometimes I just get to a point where like just come, just
That's all you
come,
can do. Yeah,
just
yeah.
because there's been so many people that have come, at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh God, this is something like I haven't seen before. And I don't think it's a matter of what they see. I think it's just a matter of what they feel.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Because when Fred invited me, he was really hyping up. I said, whatever.
All
I
right.
had no idea it was gonna be like that. You
Yeah.
can feel it as soon as you walk, and I'm all about energy. If it's raggedy, I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna observe. But when it's so impactful and you know that you can add to it, and I gain so much out of it. It's like so reassuring to let me know that Josh, you are on the right path. That these brothers have already set up a line or a pathway for you to follow. This is amazing. So I don't have to run the situation. I had this conversation today. I can lead just as well as I can follow. If you say, Josh, I need you to say 5 words to sit down, I'll say 5 words. If you say, Josh, I need you to just take over the whole thing, I'll take over the whole thing. But I don't feel it's necessary for me to do anything at the Black Man Lab, but just be.
Mm-hmm.
And that is amazing.
Yeah, and I, it's funny because we have, our lives, right? The stuff that goes on in our lives that can be heavy at times,
Yes.
and us, and Molly and I, we have the same thing. It's like, can't wait to get to the lab,
Mm.
you know.
Can't wait to get. Y'all should do a commercial called "Can't Wait to Get to the Lab."
Might have to, brother. Might have to.
Yep, yep. Because I'm doing a commercial with a lot of businesses, and it's called "You Need a Josh."
Ah,
And every person saying, your back hurt, you need a Josh. So you might want to consider doing a video called "Can't Wait to Get to the Lab."
can't wait to get to the lab. I got you. I'm about to write that down right now.
Yeah, and it's easy. It's easy to do. You could have a guy who's just having a tough day. He got some phone calls. He hears some bad news. Whatever. And then it's
Yeah.
like, "How you doing, man? I can't wait to get to the lab." And then he goes to the lab, and everything's fine. He feels good. He feels refreshed. He feels energized.
It's a healing space. There's no doubt
That's
about it.
it.
There's a healing space. So, um, we've had so many folks that have come. I mean, think about Brother Gavin. Came through and lost his son, and
That's tough.
yeah, but
Yeah, you got people dealing with some real stuff in there too. That's
real
the beautiful
stuff.
thing about it. But they don't feel bad about dealing with it.
Uh-uh. But it's real stuff. But the reality of it is that unfortunately, most of us in the room, whatever somebody's going through, we felt it in some form or fashion.
That's right.
You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? It's like now I've never been incarcerated, but we've had brothers that were in there incarcerated. I've had people in my family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I know some very close friends
Yeah.
that were. So yes, I get it.
Yeah.
I can relate. And brother, glad you here.
Yeah.
Glad you
Because
here. So
you never know
that-
what they it's just heavy. I just really appreciate it. I'm just glad that, something like this even exists.
yeah.
'Cause this is just y'all just at the tip of how big this is gonna be. I'm just glad I
Well,
was
that's the next thing, man. COVID has slowed a lot of it down. We had figured by now we'd already be in Chicago, Philadelphia, and maybe New Orleans. But COVID kind of threw a loop for us on that. But that's not to say that it's not going to happen. We're working hard to expand, and not for no other reason than we want everybody to have this feeling. There's no ego involved in it at all. I wouldn't, All I want is for people to feel that same thing that you're talking about, that energy, and be able to really heal. We talk about being warriors, healers, in what we do, and that's a big piece of what the lab is. It's just
it's
that.
amazing.
Yeah. So,
It's amazing.
brother, we are already up against the clock here. We're almost over. But before I end every week, um, I always ask the person that we have here, what are your habits, rituals, and disciplines that you do on a daily basis that keep you moving, keep your energy right, keep you going through all the stuff that we go through quite often as black men. So I'm going to pose that to you before we close out. Your habits, rituals, and disciplines.
One thing that I do that I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't know how it started or why it started. It's going to sound extremely corny, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. I always tell myself I love myself, but I do it like I'm actually two people. Like I'd be like, Josh, I love you, man. I love you too, dude. You amazing. All right, man. Good night. Good night, man. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And I wake up feeling amazing. Sometimes I be kissing myself. Good night, Josh. I love you. I love you. All right, bro. I'll talk to you tomorrow. But that really makes a difference. And as corny as it is, you will be surprised of how challenging it is for people to say that. You see, your subconscious will lie to you and tell you you don't need love. You don't need love. But I love myself so much. And I'm so proud after how much I love myself that the little stuff doesn't bother me. So that's one thing I does is I tell myself I love myself before I go to sleep. And I wake up feeling amazing. And I thank God for the little things, for the smallest things, for hot water. Having gone to Belize and been in situations where they don't have hot water all the time, you really appreciate what you have. So I thank God every single time I get out the shower. Thank you for the hot water. Because I know for a fact that somebody else does not have that. As small as it may seem, thank you for the hot water. So what happens is when you thank God for the little stuff, he has no challenge with giving you the big stuff. So I say I love myself. I love you, Josh. And I say I appreciate you and I thank you for the hot water. And the last thing I does is I meditate. I make it a point to meditate. And it's not as complicated as people thinking. Meditation has a lot to do with breathing. Once you get the breathing down, it makes sense. I do transcendental meditation. So I will be meditating where it may seem like 3, 4, 5 minutes. I'll get up and I'll check my phone and it will be 1 hour and 7 minutes that I meditate. Because I transcend from where I'm at. And I just feel so amazing afterwards. All I do is just tell myself positive stuff, speak in the affirmative, and just feel that energy flow. Because once you build up enough positive inside you, the negative that will come to you will not stick. There's no room for the negative to be if you have enough positive. I tell my clients this all the time. The negative needs the positive, okay? The negative needs the positive because it has to keep on fighting it so it can be negative. But the positive does not need the negative. The positive will connect to the positive enough and add more positive where you won't even focus on the negative. So I always try to be positive with myself, be positive with people, and always give that energy back because it comes right back to me. So 3 things. I say I love myself. I love you, Josh. I thank the hot water every day I take a shower, and I meditate. Those are 3 things that I do.
Love that. Love that. Now I'm gonna tell you. I took from you the morning ritual of awesome, saying it 5 times. I love that.
Yeah, I've had 5 people come up to me to the lab and say from the lab and say their lives have changed ever since they've been doing it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and so your I love you thing. I might do that anyway because I think I talk to myself a lot
Do it.
anyways.
The number one person to talk to is yourself.
Oh, perfect conversation. That's what I say.
Yep, because you can talk to somebody else and they can tell you what to do, but whatever you do is not going to affect them. They'll
Right.
give you all the advice in the world. Dude, you should leave her. Yeah, but you not me. You're not in this situation. So I try not to give advice. I ask questions. You figure it out yourself. You end up talking to yourself. You're going to make the right decision.
Right. Man, that's great stuff. Josh, appreciate you, brother. And we're going to end here just like we do in the lab, bro. So if you could act like you
Lock up.
locking arms, bro, and then just repeat after me. I'm a link in this chain,
I'm going to link in this chain,
and it won't break here.
and it won't break here.
I'm a link in this chain,
I'm going to link in this chain,
and it won't break here.
and it won't break here.
We are links in this chain,
We are links in this chain,
and we won't break here.
and we won't break here.
Ashe. Thank you,
Ashe.
brother. Thank
Appreciate you, sir. Keep
Man,
doing
look
what
forward
you're
to
doing.
seeing you on Monday, man. We're going to have another live one.
Man, it's gonna be awesome. I'm
Gonna
looking
be
forward
awesome.
to it. If we can record those, woo! Because these
Yeah,
conversations I know men want to have all over the world.
absolutely. Great stuff, brother. Appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you.
All right, sir. Be well.
Be well now.
All right.